In your walk with Jesus, at some point, you will probably encounter an experience in which it seems like God has totally forsaken you or abandoned you. Psalm 22 expresses such pain. My God, why have you forsaken me? These words are particularly striking in view of Psalm 9:10. For when you look at Psalm 9, verse 10, you can see those who know your name trust in you. David prays to the Lord, for you have never forsaken those who seek you. So David's cry here in Psalm 22 is in stark contrast to that assurance. This psalm, perhaps more than any other to this point, is quoted richly in New Testament passages, particularly related to Jesus' death on the cross. And then so much of the other content of this psalm is alluded to in several other passages in the New Testament. I almost hesitate to try to point out just a couple of aspects because there is so much to reflect on. And it is a model in terms of how we might be able ourselves as believers to pour out our struggles and our cries of severe uh, difficulty when we are faced with situations that seem like God just doesn't care. You can see here in Mark 15:34 how at one point in Jesus's or during Jesus's death on the cross, he calls out with the very words that are depicted here in Psalm 22. You can see that also down below as you look at the passage in Matthew, that is Matthew 27:43, where as Jesus was hanging on the cross, people were mocking him and saying, "Let God rescue him." Well, you can see that if you compare with the passage here in Psalm 22, where David says he is a worm and not a man, in that stanza, you can see that David knows that the Lord has delighted in him, and yet the people, in whatever situation he is referring to, are mocking him. We also see in Psalm 18:19 that that psalm was a reflection of victory in terms of all the experiences that David had gone through, as described in the first, Psalms 3 through 17. In that situation, David expresses that the Lord rescued him because he delighted in him. And so it's striking here in Psalm 22 again, the contrast of how it seems God just does not seem to be interested. I pointed out several of the images in gray circular marks here you can see. And I did that because such images continue to appear in the Psalms, and many people think that these images point to specific uh, people or entities or characters, and perhaps they do, but I want to suggest that we don't need to look at these images and try to figure out how each one fits into a specific situation or character in David's life. David is describing the pain here of his experience while looking forward and believing that this ultimately points to the Christ. And so these are images that try to capture some of the struggle, the opposition, the enemies that have continued to come against him. So this psalm is one that when we look at the New Testament, we can see that it foreshadows and looks to Jesus himself, his suffering on the cross. And as Jesus suffered, he took our place as believers in Jesus Christ. So even in the midst of our severe pain, we can come to him with such words, with such struggles. We can simply be honest before him and say, God Almighty, come and rescue me. You can see here at the end of this psalm how David has confidence that the Lord will intervene and has intervened. He says he has done it. You can look at Jesus's words on the cross where he says the entire process is finished. That is, my life, death, and resurrection has now completed my mission. And as you look at the passage there in Luke 24, you can see that he brings to fulfillment all that was written about him through his life, death, resurrection. So this psalm is another mighty psalm that encourages us believers in Jesus Christ that Jesus himself took our place with such pain. And because of that, we can come to the Lord and share our pain and be confident that God himself will intervene.